Do you know what I love about December? I love watching NFL playoff pictures because little by little, records matter a little bit more. And that means that tonight we will take a look at the NFC playoff picture. And more precisely, we will take a look at the crystal ball. We will look at the future and try to figure out which is the most likely scenario for the Cowboys come playoff time. Because I think it's pretty clear who is the most likely rival for the Cowboys. And I know the games need to be played. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But the good news for you and me is that we don't actually have to play these games. It's them. It's the Cowboys. So tonight we'll have some fun. The Colts, the next rival, are still playing their Week 12 game. So I thought it was a good chance to make the most out of the long week and really take a look at some of the fun scenarios, because I think that the Cowboys have one of the most interesting situations across the entire NFL when it comes to playoff sitting. So that's what we will talk about tonight. We will talk about the likeliest foe. We will take a look as well as we do every Monday night across the entire league and have ourselves an overreaction Monday. So let's get ready. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Share the stream. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let your friends know about Primetime, because shout out to the YouTube audience. We are back on YouTube. I'm excited about it. Let's have some fun tonight talking some Cowboys football. Shout out to Toxic Tom saying, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Mo back on YouTube. That is right. Shout out to Gregory, Mrs. Tom Downey as well. We've got Mark, Gregory, Rudy Garza. Shout out to Peter and Jeff as well over on Facebook. Thank you guys for joining the show. Do me a favor, hit that like button, share the stream, and let's get ready to start this show officially now that more of us are here. 1, 2, and 3. What is up, everybody? Welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network, with a lot more content coming your way. Make sure that you check out atozsports.com/Dallas. We've got daily articles up there. And as always, remember that Primetime is brought to you by our friends over at Freeman Mazda. We will talk more about them and the ride of the week in a few moments here. But before we do any of that, let's talk about the Cowboys and where they stand in the NFC playoff picture. Because if the season ended today, ladies and gentlemen, the Cowboys would rank 5th in the NFC. If we would take a look at each of these teams and where they rank, Dallas is number 5 in the conference, just because of how seeding works in the league. You've got the 4 divisional leaders, and then you get the wild cards. And it doesn't matter if the Cowboys have a better record than the Tampa Bay Bucks, or if they end up with a better record than the Minnesota Vikings. If they're not in the driver's seat for the only division in football that's got the 4 teams in, if the playoffs ended today, that would be the case for the NFC East. Still a possibility, whether you believe that or not. It's crazy to think about. Where would you put the Cowboys' chances of taking that number 1 spot from the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me know your comments in the chat, your answers. Bruce says, you all were missed when the show was on Facebook. Man, yeah, I did miss you guys. Shout out to the YouTube audience. I'm excited about being back with you guys tonight. From 1 to 100, where would you put the Cowboys' chances of getting the number 1 seed in the NFC? 39 is toxic. I think that's a very decent number. Kind of agree there. 40% is toxic, Tom. 6 says 80. 40% for Jeff Clark. I like the sober answers in the comments. Listen, whether you like it or not, and whether it sucks or not, the Eagles have the mathematical advantage. This isn't about beating the Eagles come December 24th, even though that will be a huge deal when it comes to determining the champion of the NFC East. Since the Eagles are 2 games ahead of the Cowboys right now, they have a big advantage in this conversation because not only do the Cowboys need to beat the Eagles on Christmas Eve, and then they also need them to lose an extra game. But even if that happened, the Cowboys need to run the table. And it doesn't matter who's on your schedule, it doesn't matter who you are. Running the table is always hard in the NFL. Even one loss puts the Cowboys in a super complicated spot to win the NFC East. So, and the number 1 seed, right? So I'm going to go with a low answer as well. I'm going to back the people going with 40%. Rudigo goes with 75. Mark Andrew goes with 35. Peter Rizzo goes with 75. But what I really wanted to talk about is the fact that it's really, one or the other, it seems to be. Because if you take a look at the NFC standings, you've got the Cowboys are number 5, right? But look at the divisional champions. The Eagles are 10-1, and we'll get into the likeliest foe conversation. Let's hold on that for a little bit. I just want to show you the standings. The Vikings are 9-2. The 49ers are 7-4. The Tampa Bay Bucks are 5-6, yet they're the number 4 team in the NFC because they lead their division because the NFC South sucks. It's got the Falcons, the Saints, the Panthers, and of course the Tampa Bay Bucks. And then you've got the NFC East filling out the final 7 spots. And then the Seattle Seahawks remain in the hunt as they're the only other NFC team with a winning record that could be in that conversation. But I want to look with you guys. I want to look at what Football Outsiders had to say about the Cowboys' playoff chances and more specifically the sitting odds for the Dallas Cowboys, because Football Outsiders does a great job compiling DVOA, which is an efficiency metric that looks beyond volume, beyond win-loss records, and Football Outsiders, what it tries to do with their stat is measure how much value they bring to every play, and then on top of that, DVOA is adjusted by opponent. So using those metrics, they determine the probabilities for each playoff scenario and the probabilities for each team that is aiming for the playoffs, what's the most likely seeding for them, and it agrees with the eye test. We all think that the Cowboys are either winning the NFC East and finding their way into the number 1 seed, or they're number 5 at best. And Football Outsiders agrees with that. It puts the Cowboys' odds of getting the number 5 seed at 75% and the number 1 seed at a 15%. This is where it gets interesting. Dallas has, according to Football Outsiders, has a 15% chance of getting the number 1 seed, which would be home field advantage plus the bye week, the only bye week in the conference. It has the Vikings, who have a better record than the Cowboys and are not facing a killer schedule for the remaining of the year. It has the Vikings at 3%. So that kind of tells you how this is a boom or bust scenario for Dallas. Not in the sense that you're not going to be successful if you're on the road as the number 5 seed if it come playoff time, but it's a drastic difference. The Dallas are the second most likely team in the NFL, according to Football Outsiders, to get the top seed, to win essentially the regular season in the NFC. That's how close the Cowboys are. And I think that when we really put that in perspective, it really shows you how important the Colts game is and how important the Jaguars game is going to be. And the same for the Texans and the Eagles and the Titans. Even though you are about to take a look at a quote-unquote easy division, and you cannot even say easy division after the Jaguars beat the Baltimore Ravens and the Titans are looking like one of the best teams in the AFC, even after they lost to the Bengals this Sunday. Those are not easy games, and you cannot take a single one of them off because you're not playing to kill a streak that's been alive since 2004. That would be the NFC not having a back-to-back champion since then. You're playing for the biggest advantage that you can possibly get in the playoffs. Let's see some of your comments here. Toxic Tom says, I don't care where or who Dallas plays. They better not lay an egg like they usually do. That is the big concern, of course. Now, it's easier to lay an egg against a tougher opponent than it is to lay an egg against a weaker opponent. So I always love to look at playoff pictures and playoff scenarios. And as such, I wanted to talk a little bit here about the fact that I think that we already should have a very strong idea as to who the Cowboys are going to be playing in their first game of the playoffs. And I think it's going to be the Tampa Bay Bucks. It's the most likely opponent for Dallas. Think about it. If Dallas ends up at number 5, number 4 is Tampa and Tom Brady. The only other scenario that I can think of as a likely outcome is the Cowboys really pulling a feed off and winning the NFC East, ending the year with the number 1 seed in the NFC. And that would put the Cowboys in the waiting room because they would be waiting to see how the wildcard round plays out. Now, the most likely scenario then would likely be the Eagles, because it would be the Eagles traveling to Tampa Bay, but you can never rule out Tom Brady. So it would be one of those two, I would assume. Now, home field advantage would tell you that, the Bucs are going to be playing at home. They're the divisional champion. They're beating the Eagles, and you're facing the Bucs either way, only you're doing it at home as a number 1 seed in the divisional round instead of traveling to Tampa in the wildcard round. But I would say that the Eagles beat the Tampa Bay Bucs in a playoff match, considering where both teams are at right now after 12 weeks of the season. My question from me to you is, who would you rather face? Would you rather face the GOAT that has a inconsistent and unbalanced roster around him, or would you rather face Jalen Hurts and one of the best rosters in the NFL? I think it's an interesting question because some people still respect the heck out of Tom Brady, which you should, because Tom Brady is a very good quarterback still. And even though the Bucs have not been the same this year, Brady's playing good football, actually. Who would you rather face? See, Tommy surprises me. Tommy says Eagles. Easy. Toxic Tom says, I want to beat Brady once. Please, just once. Can you just once be cool and beat Tom Brady? Says Toxic Tom. Gregory says that the Eagles. Okay. Steven says both. Get me both. I don't think there's a likely scenario for the Cowboys to face the Eagles and the Bucs both in the playoffs. Jeff says Bucs at this point. Eagles are playing great football. Bucs is Mark Andrew. Peter Rizzo says GOAT, but not a mobile quarterback. And that's a fair comment. Peter, you're right on. Team Hall says that he wants Tom Brady. Rudy says Bucs. Jeff Clark goes with Tampa Bay. Mando says Eagles. Man, I would much rather face the Bucs. I know it is Tom Brady. You can never be a fan, of having to face Tom Brady in the playoffs, no less. But hey, that's a shaky offensive line. He's not mobile, as people are saying in the chat. I think they've not run the football the same way than previous years. They've been inconsistent. I'm afraid of the possibility of Tom Brady going GOAT mode on you in the postseason. But also, that's not the best team that you could face. I mean, the Eagles are significantly better. And I would argue in every single phase of the game at this point. They're good. That Eagles team is good. Now, they have a weakness. It's important for us to know that they have a weakness. And that's why the Packers scored 33 points on them last night. The Eagles will let you run the football. They're 26th in the NFL in rush defense, DVOA. Now, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, and that's, a long way off. We still need to play December football, but that's why I love December football, because it matters and you get to see what the possibilities are for the postseason. And it's always exciting to always know what's at stake. And that's why I wanted to have this show and this episode as we enter the long week. Jeff says you even have to mention Hurts with MVP status right now. Yeah, and I do think it's between Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. I would lean Mahomes. I would heavily lean Mahomes because I really like what he's doing this year. I think Patrick Mahomes really had this season in which everybody was hyping up Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Rightfully so. Don't get me wrong. Rightfully so. And then Jalen Hurts was undefeated, so he was also in the conversation. But then over the last few weeks, it seems to me that Mahomes had been like, you know what? Shh, for a moment, right? I'm still Mahomes. It felt like that to me. He's impressive. No Juju Smith-Schuster, no Mecole Hardman versus the Chargers in Week 11. Still had the ability to put together that game-winning drive at the last moment. He's out there killing it with Travis Kelce. He's a fun quarterback. And Bruce says Brady has looked human all season long. Now, although I agree, he's looked human, but he's looked good. He's looked like a decent quarterback. Here's the thing about the Tampa Bay Bucks from what I've seen. This is what I've seen personally. You had a Tom Brady guy that before, he might not have the best offensive line. He might not have the best receiving core. He was still going to keep you in the game because he zeroed in those big moments. It was impressive to watch. He was the definition of clutch. But the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then he got to Tampa Bay, and you could even argue that in 2020 when he won that 7th Super Bowl, he was in a very good situation. This is not taking away from Brady. This is just recognizing what the Bucks were as a team. But now he is on an offense that wants to run the football but can't, or wants to go heavy on you with the double teams. The Bucks last year and the year before that and the year before that were among the teams that ran the highest rates of duo. They have not been able to do so. And remember that they lost their left guard. They lost Ryan Jensen to injury as well. You had a new right guard in that lineup. So obviously that chemistry changes. I think they're finding some sort of mojo now. I was surprised that they lost to the Cleveland Browns. But hey, the Browns are also low-key good, low-key and efficient team. So there's that. But at least Brady has not looked like that guy that can overcome it all at the same time. And in that sense, yes, Brady has looked human all season. I agree with that. Jeff says, in what possible way would Dallas face Eagles in the first round? A lot would have to go wrong for both teams. So let me try to clear that part up. The scenario in which the Cowboys face the Eagles, and thank you for your question, Jeff. That way I assure myself that, I was clear about this whole thing. The Cowboys right now seem to be between the number 1 seed and the number 5 seed. If you're the number 5, you're facing the Bucks because the Bucks are not escaping that number 4 slot. They're not escaping that slot. They're the worst divisional leader right now and will probably continue to be so. So that's the most likely scenario. But say the Cowboys pull it off. Say the Cowboys win the NFC East and they get the number 1 seed, which is their second most likely seeding. In that scenario, and let me change to the NFC standings here real quick. You would have the Tampa Bay Bucks at number 4 going up against the Philadelphia Eagles at number 5 in the wild card round. That would be the wild card. If the Eagles beat the Bucks, and then the Vikings and the 49ers as divisional champions beat the wild cards that they face, you probably get the wild card team as the number 1 seed, right? You're the number 1 guy. You're facing the lowest seeded playoff team. So maybe I skipped over that part of assuming that the Vikings and the Niners get their wins. since they're divisional champions, you would assume that they're in that position. A lesser seeded wildcard team would have to win for the Cowboys not to face the Eagles or the Bucks, assuming that the three divisional champions win. I know we're kind of assuming a lot of stuff here, but hey, that's what I love about this show. We really can dive into some of these fun scenarios and have fun with them. That would be the scenario, Jeff. Sorry if I wasn't super clear at the beginning of the show. Hope that it's clear now. That would be the scenario. Toxic Tom says, so Mo, if we go one and done again, we riot, right? Yes. But short answer, yes. Long answer, let me know how we go one and done. In the sense of, do we go one and done in the wild card against the Bucks? Or do we go one and done against the Eagles in an overtime thriller versus the Eagles in which the refs miss a defensive pass interference, right? I'm obviously going with a super exaggerated scenario here, but I'm just saying the how matters. And the how matters more than anything for the conversation that we will have the morning after. Because if it's the latter, then McCarthy maybe sticks around. But if you have no answers against the Bucks in the wildcard round, then McCarthy's probably gone after this season, and the Sean Payton drama is turned all the way up. Could be. Samuel says Mo is better than every Eagle YouTuber. Samuel, one, thank you. Two, though, I don't think that was a very high bar that you set for me, man. So I get thank you, I guess. Shout out to Samuel for joining the show. L is an L, says Toxic Tom. Yeah, it is. But I think that for the morning after, though, not every L is the same. Is it? You didn't feel the same way about the Cowboys' week 1 loss to the Bucks this season than you did about last year's week 1 loss to the Bucks. It's different. That's more or less what I mean there. Is it impossible to meet the Eagles in the NFC Championship game, says Gregory? I don't think that would be impossible, especially if you would probably need another wildcard team to win, assuming that the Eagles stay at number 1, the Cowboys make the playoffs as a number 5 team. You would need a lower seeded team to move on into the divisional round. So no, I think it's even probable, actually. Hey, it's going to be fun. Next few weeks, we talked about it last week. For those of you on YouTube, let me sum it up for you. We talked about facing the AFC South on Sunday night. We were talking about which is the toughest game over the next 3 weeks. And we were talking about facing the Colts, who are obviously a team that I think the Cowboys match up well against, because I don't think the Colts offense has any use at all. Sure, Jonathan Taylor is good, but that offensive line is banged up and it's not great. Ryan Kelly went down injured, the center, just today in the first half of Monday Night Football. And then on top of that, Matt Ryan is the 39th quarterback in average depth of target. He is the 39th quarterback in big-time throw percentage. They're not explosive, period. Then you get, of course, you can also throw in the Texans there in the conversation. I don't think that we should really see them as a threat. Anything can happen in the NFL, but there is not one legitimate reason why you could say, oh, the Cowboys are losing to the Texans. That's not even a trap game. A trap game is not the same as an upset necessarily. My point being, the Jaguars might be the scariest team over the next 3 weeks because Trevor Lawrence can generate those explosives. And Trevor Lawrence is a heck of a quarterback. And anytime you're facing a heck of a quarterback, you know that if anything can happen in the NFL, a heck of a quarterback makes it even more likely. So it's going to be fun, and every game matters. And even if they're AFC squads, you know that so much is at stake because your chances to win the Super Bowl are not the same if you're the number one team in the NFC or the number 5 team in the NFC. I know that the Cowboys didn't have success as the number one squad in 2016. That was Dak Prescott's rookie season. You know that a lot of things were going on back then. It's not the same. Cowboys have no room for error, in other words, for the rest of the season. It's impossible to run the table. I mean, it's near impossible to run the table, but that's what the Cowboys should be aiming for moving forward. Let's see here. Mark Aaron says, this Monday Night Football game is super boring. Not gonna lie, I was low-key excited about it. I was excited about watching Kenny Pickett on prime time. I was excited about watching Jeff Saturday's third game, kind of get a better idea of who are the Colts. But yeah, it's not good football, what's being played right now. I watched the first quarter with a little bit of better attention than I did the second quarter because we were here on prime time, and it did not look good. Some sacks from both Ryan and Pickett that you couldn't really get over. Maybe the Cowboys 49ers NFC Championship game, says Anthony. Now, the 49ers are a team that scares me, and the Eagles as well. I think Cowboys, Eagles, and 49ers, whatever order, however you want to rank them, are the top 3 teams in the conference, and then there's a steep drop-off to number 4. Eagles, Cowboys, and 49ers are dangerous. The Vikings have some good stuff in there, but they're not dangerous. Cowboys, Eagles, and 49ers all are because they're balanced, because they've got playmakers. They've got solid coaching staffs because I do see the Cowboys coaching staff as a strength going into the playoffs. I think that maybe they're number 2 among those big teams in the NFC behind Kyle Shanahan's coaching staff. Also had that conversation on Facebook last week in case you want to check it out. But anyways, before we get out of here and before I let you enjoy the rest of your Monday Night Football, of your Monday Night and Monday Night Football, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to Overreaction Monday here in A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. As always, you know the rules. I give you a statement and you tell me, is that a overreaction or is that a fair reaction? First up on this one, we've got the Cowboys will go 3-0 before the Eagles game in Christmas Eve. Is that an overreaction or is that a fair reaction? Let me know in the chat. While you do that, and before I give you my official answer, let me talk to you about our friends over at FreemanMazda.net, because the ride of the week is a 2023 Mazda CX-30 Premium. And man, this one is special. It starts at $32,130. It's got all-wheel drive. It's got a sunroof. Do you want comfort? It's got leather power heated memory foam seating. Do you want safety? It's got side impact airbags. Or do you want to just jam? It's got a premium audio system. Miles per gallon capacity of 24 in the city. That goes up to 31 when you are in the highway. Check out the 2023 Mazda CX-30 Premium over at FreemanMazda.net, a family-owned business for over 65 years. Remember that when you choose Freeman Mazda, you're choosing a lifelong partnership with your car dealer. So Cowboys going 3-0 over the next 3 weeks. Is that an overreaction or is that a fair reaction? Let's see what your comments are. Oh, Tommy Lumen, Jeff, Mark, 6. Who else here? Gilbert on Facebook. Tommy. Everyone's going with fair. Toxic, though, goes with overreaction. I don't trust Dallas in December. Overreaction. Edward says they drop 1. They will drop. Oh, no. Bruce said, Samuel said, we're dropping 1. Overreaction, says Dylan. These guys are still inconsistent. Same old Cowboys. See, the worst thing about this is that if the Cowboys say the Cowboys go 2-1, we're going to panic. It doesn't matter who the loss is against, because the loss is going to come against a losing team if it does happen. But then if they do go 3-0, it's going to be the AFC South. Who cares? They have not proven anything. So it's a lose-lose situation for the next 3 weeks. Everything that matters is in that 24th of December game versus the Eagles. I will tell you what, though, if they do go 3-0 on this late, I think it will matter more than we will give them credit for. Because the Jaguars, I think the Jaguars specifically are not an easy opponent. Ask the Ravens. Yeah, Jeff says Mo is nervous about the Jags. A little bit. But I will go with fair reaction, though. I will make the Cowboys the favorites against the Jaguars for sure. But I'm a little bit hesitant about that one, just because they've got some guys, and I like Trevor Lawrence a lot. Toxic Tom says, my wife ordered boneless wings tonight, thinking divorce is my only option. Fair or overreaction? Mr. Toxic Tom, that is a very high overreaction, because boneless wings are the way to go. But we will try to avoid that controversy for a little bit here. We will try not to get into that. Next question, and this is where we take a look at the rest of the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. The Bengals, after beating the Titans and after the Ravens lost to the Jaguars, the Bengals will win the AFC North. Overreaction or fair reaction? Hey, that's a good one. They have a regular season game left. The Bengals' schedule is rough. They still have to go against the Chiefs. They have to go against the Ravens. They've got Tampa Bay in there. Not an easy schedule for Cincinnati. The Bengals will win the AFC North. Overreaction or fair reaction? Meanwhile, the Ravens are struggling on offense. Good defense, though. They're playing good defense. But I think that since they've missed Rashad Bateman, they don't have that answer, man. The thing about the Ravens was they loaded the box against Lamar Jackson and company, and they had Bateman out there one-on-one. Give me those wins on the outside. Now that Bateman is not there, though, I don't think the Ravens passing attack has figured it out. I will go, though, with overreaction, because I think that the Ravens take the division. I think they're the better team, and I think that the Bengals will still lose at least 1 or 2 games maybe before the end of the regular season, even though I love what the Bengals are doing right now and see them as legit contenders in the AFC. Fair reaction for Jeff. 6 says fair. The Ravens are soft. Bengals, yes, they've got the best quarterback, says Glenn. Gregory goes with over. Toxic asks, when is Jamar Chase back? Next week. That is the expectation. Tommy, though, goes with over. Lumen goes with over. He says Baltimore wins the North. Fair reaction for Mark Andrew. Overreaction for Dylan. Remaining schedule is too tough. I agree. And before we get out of here, one last one. Aaron Rodgers played his last game as the Packers quarterback. Is that an overreaction or is that a fair reaction? Jordan Love took over last night. We don't know what the health status is for Aaron Rodgers. We will probably know more over the next few weeks, over the next few days. But in the meantime, is that an overreaction or is that a fair reaction? Aaron Rodgers playing his last game as the Packers. The thing is, if that's a 2 to 4 week injury, for example, do you come back at all if you are Rodgers when the Packers are not playing for anything anymore? And if you don't, what exactly happens next offseason with Green Bay? And that could become an even more interesting conversation if Jordan Love goes out there and kills it. What are you guys thinking? Let me know in the comments. Joey Bella says over. Thomas is over. Jeff goes with fair. Gregory goes with over. Bruce with fair. David with over. Man, I love that I'm throwing some out there that are controversial. He's done, says Jeff. Mark says fair. Six Godot goes with over. Toxic goes with over. I'm gonna go with overreaction. I think that, listen, in 2024, in 2023, as long as Aaron Rodgers wants to keep playing, why would he go elsewhere? And why would the Packers let him go elsewhere? Maybe it made sense a year ago or even this offseason while the Packers were figuring out some of the money stuff. Now that's taken care of, though, you're not a better team without Rodgers. And the Packers are not going to be in a top 5, top 10 situation in the NFL draft in which drafting CJ Stroud or Bryce Young or somebody like that is at hand, is at play. So I don't see it happening. I think that Aaron Rodgers stays. I don't know if he will come back, though, in 2022. We'll see. I don't see him leaving Green Bay, though. I don't see any of the parties winning if he does. And he still got it, by the way. I think he's still a good quarterback in the NFL. The only reason why he wouldn't stay, in my opinion, is if he doesn't decide to retire after this year, which would kind of surprise me if he does. Lumen says Rodgers wants to be a tight end, Momo. Lumen, but don't you want to see Malik Willis drive into the quarterback position? That's like a half joke, I think. He's built a house in Nashville. Do you remember that storyline? I remember, shout out to Zach and Austin over at ADZ Sports Nashville, the bosses of this whole thing. I remember when they were covering that storyline in their morning show, they were talking about Rodgers building a house in Nashville, and the Titans fans were freaking the F out. It was funny. But I don't think that Rodgers wants to go play for the Titans. I don't see that. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be it for me tonight on the show. Thank you for tuning into ADZ Sports Dallas Primetime. YouTube audience, I missed you. I missed you a lot. Thank you. Thank you for joining the show once more. And as always, we are live Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. Remember that you can check out more articles on the Cowboys over at adzsports.com/Dallas. I had one on Michael Gallup this morning. I think that you will enjoy it if you go check it out. And there's also a lot of stuff on Micah, on the Cowboys as a team overall. And as always, remember that Primetime is brought to you by our friends over at FreemanMazda.net, a family-owned business for over 65 years. If you want a new car, go check it out. A-plus customer service, man, over there at FreemanMazda.net. So I will see you. Shout out to you. Thank you, Lumen. Thank you, Jeff, Glenn, Toxic Bella. Sorry, I thought that was Toxic Tom. Gregory, Rudy, shout out to you for tuning in to the show. I will see you tomorrow. Disfruten su lunes y el Monday Night Football. Adiós.